per Stirpes, per capita. What language is this? And why does the first one sound oddly close to a venereal disease? Yeah, I get it. Some weird names, right? But it's very important that you know what these words mean. Words or phrases, however you want to call them, mean. Because it's important to your financial future. And maybe not your financial future, but the financial future of the people that you love, the charities that you love. My name is Randolph Love III. This is an episode of Entrepreneurs Podcast, the place to hear real entrepreneurs and business owners bear it all. I help business owners and homeowners avoid financial catastrophe and have the option of comfortably retiring in 15 years or less utilizing the Miracle Money vehicle. Now, what does per Stirpes and per capita mean? Okay, so when you get a life insurance policy, and I know that word scares a lot of people. A lot of people are superstitious. A lot of people believe if you talk about life insurance, if you talk about a will, that it means you're going to die. Well, I got some sad news for you. You're going to die, but because you were so superstitious, you didn't utilize the Miracle Money vehicle, match funded index universal life policy, and or life, any other type of life insurance, but it don't compare to that. But you did not utilize this in creating an estate for your family. Or you didn't utilize it to make your life better while you was alive, because guess what? They named it life insurance for a reason. It's just marketing turned it around to make it just about death. But life insurance is supposed to protect your life and make it better. Now you do have death insurance, like term insurance. Basically is you saying, hey, right? Well, just imagine a scenario. This is term insurance, also known as temporary insurance. Just imagine this scenario. You just have a child. You have a child maybe in your late 20s, to where you were able to see what life was like dealing with certain things, with or without. Maybe you had both parents, maybe you didn't. But you were able to see what the hardships that you had to overcome. You saw you made bad mistakes. You saw your first car was a lemon. You saw you didn't get the best interest rate on your first house. You saw you wasted money in college because you did not know exactly what you wanted to do. Because the college was the best decision for you, but you would have chose something else that's more specialized to what you're actually doing today. So just imagine that's on your mind when this newborn child is born and you tell yourself, I need 25 years at least to protect this newborn child from those same mistakes I made. And I'm going to do everything they can to make sure when they go to look at their first car, we're going to get the Carfax. We're going to test drive it on the regular road, on the highway. When they first get their mortgage, we're not just going to go to the first person that qualifies us. We're going to go ahead and go to at least three different banks before we decide on which mortgage is the best, because we're going to shop around because they need our business. We don't just got to accept anything that they say. You say, hey, I'm going to talk to her. I'm going to watch her as a child, and I'm going to see what she's naturally interested in, not what the news or people around or what I think or what I wish I would have did interfere with what I'm paying attention to see what they're naturally interested in, opposed to what I think is going to make them the most money. I'm going to watch them. I'm going to see that. I'm going to nurture it, and I'm going to make sure if going to college is something that makes what they naturally, innately are good at and like better, I'm going to make sure they take the right path. But if it isn't, I'm not going to force it down their throats, because I think that's the standard of success that they should live up to based on what people have been telling them. Where if I would have them drawing on the wall, where if I would have said, you know what, I can't stand this kid drawing on the wall. Instead of just spanking them every time they pick up a marker, I might just go ahead and put boards all around my walls, just so the highest that they can get, that they can draw on, is removable. It's erasable, to allow them to keep building and working on that. It's different things that hindsight is 2020. I know some parents wish they would have did that. It's hindsight, right? Everybody the best quarterback on Monday morning. Everybody would have made the right decisions out there. But let's say that's what you decide. And keep in mind, all of these decisions are affecting this child's financial future. A lot of people say money isn't everything. You are correct. But money does make everything just a little bit better. A lot of people say more money, more problems. I say more money, more solutions. So you say I need at least 25 years in order to make this happen. But I'm a realist. I know that there's a chance that I won't be around for these 25 years that I think it's going to take for me to help this child go through avoid the hardships that I did. I know they're going to have their own hardships, but at the very least, I'm going to make sure they're going to avoid what the hardships that I had to deal with. But you say, hey, I need 25 years, but just in case I don't make it those 25 years, I'm going to go ahead and get a term life insurance, a 25-year term life insurance. Because if I were to die suddenly, this lump sum of money that I'm going to, if they're under a certain age, if they haven't reached the age of majority, this lump sum of money, I'm either going to give directly to them if they reach the age of majority, or I might have to talk to whatever the trustee is, whoever the person that I'm going to make the guardian if something were to happen. Make sure that they understand what my wishes are so that they can delegate these funds correctly. Because if you die suddenly before you can give them those entire 25 years, that lump sum of money is going to offset their dumb decisions that they probably wouldn't have made if you were there. When they buy that first lemon car, that car that only worked for about 2 weeks, that money is going to offset that dumb decision. They can learn from that mistake and buy a better car. When they get that bad interest rate on their mortgage, that money is going to offset that bad decision a little, because it's going to offset that a little extra interest that they're paying every year for the next 30 years. When they go to school for 4 to 6 years, get out and realize they don't even like what they're doing, they only did it because it made money, that money is going to offset that bad decision and give them the space and maybe the funds after they may be depleted financial aid to go back to school or take whatever specialized training they needed to do what they actually are passionate about. That's what term does. Or you can go whole life, or my personal favorite, match funded index universal life policy. The miracle money vehicle, as I call it. The life policy that the wealthy people use. But that being said, regardless of which one you choose, you're going to have to choose a designation on how you will want this money to be taken care of should you pass away. It's per capita or per Stirpes. Per capita by the head, per Stirpes by way of branches. I think it's Latin. So here's what happened. Just imagine this scenario. So you've decided to either get term, whole life, or universal life policy. And you have 3 children. The life benefit, the benefit that your beneficiary would get if you were to pass away, the beneficiary is the person that you want to get this lump sum of money once you're gone. So The benefit for the beneficiaries, whoever, either beneficiary or beneficiaries, is $300,000. Since you have kids, you put in your contract that you want it to be divided amongst your 3 children. And you went ahead and when you chose your children, you went ahead and named them specifically instead of just saying my children, because you know when you say just my children, maybe a long lost kid might pop up. And now a kid that you didn't even know existed, or a kid that maybe completely, irrevocably disrespected you. But now they want their claim because all you put was my children, and it's going to honor what you said. No matter how many people pop up to be your children, if another one of your children pop up, then they get a piece of that money. So you went ahead and named each of them specifically just so that scenario won't and didn't happen. And so each of them are going to get $100,000 each, right? You're the insured. When you die, that lump sum of money is going to go to them. That $300,000 is going to be divided amongst those 3, 100,000, 100,000, 100,000. What happens if one of your kids pass away before you do? You've already made this will. But what happens, this life policy, but what happens if one of your kids pass away before you do? And you're so grief stricken, or maybe you just never thought to do it. You still have their names on there as a beneficiary. And the kid that died had their own 2 kids, your grandkids that you might love, or grandkids that you might not like so much. They related to you, but that's it. All right, so what happens if we have Lizzie, Lewis, and John? What happens if John dies before you, leaving behind his 2 kids, your 2 grandkids? What happens? Do you want his portion to go to those grandkids, or you don't really like those grandkids too much? Do you want his portion to then be divided amongst the remaining beneficiaries, your other 2 kids, Lizzie and Lewis? I think that's what I said. Lizzie, Lewis, and John. But your other 2 kids, Lizzie and Lewis. So do you want Lizzie and Lewis to now get $150,000 each when they take John's cut and split it in half? Or do you want that money to be split between your 2 remaining grandkids? That $100,000 cut into 2. Now each of the grandkids getting $50,000 each. If you know what you want, make that selection, because here's what happened. If you choose per Stirpes, it's going to your grandkids in that scenario by way of branches. If you choose per Capita, it's going to your surviving kids, Lizzie and Lewis, by the head. And I know what you're thinking now. Okay, per Stirpes, per capita. Per Stirpes, if one of the beneficiaries, one of 3 beneficiaries die, or even if it's one of 2, but in this scenario, one of 3 beneficiaries die, the money will then pass to the two grandkids of the child. Or per capita is just going to be split amongst the surviving beneficiaries. Yeah, I can remember that. But here's the thing. Tomorrow, you probably not. And that's just how it is. You don't use it, you lose it. So here's how you'll always remember the difference between per Stirpes and per capita. So when I think of per capita, I think of King Arthur days, Game of Thrones days. You know, they're wearing those cloaks over armor with the big swords, fighting each other, jousting, whatever you call it, when people throw big sharp pieces of metal at each other, trying to kill each other, impale each other. I think of those days, and I imagine 3 kings standing up there at the block, you know, in those movies, those old movies where they have them all up in front of everybody, about to get their head put in the gallows, about to get their head chopped off. be it by guillotine or by just laying their head in that piece of wood, and a man come out, a big knight come out, never show his face, and he just chop his head coming down, thrusting down hard, and his head just hits the floor and bounces and roll off of the wooden deck that they're on. All of the people gasp. I imagine that per capita, because the man, guess what just happened? Whenever somebody gets their head cut off, they got decapitated. Per capita, decapitated. Per capita by the head, decapitated, to cut off a head. You see how that cap in there, that same base word in there, meaning that? So when I imagine somebody getting decapitated, in those movies like that, whenever a king got killed, they had to hide their kids, because whoever killed the king and took the power, they coming for the kids, because they don't want no challenge against the throne, none whatsoever. So that's how I remember when I think of per capita, decapitated. Oh, nah, once John gone, he gone. And as far as I know, the kids don't exist. Go ahead and divide that money amongst the surviving kings. And then per Stirpes with an S at the end. When I out of per capita and per Stirpes sounds the one that sounds closer to a plural, don't it? It got an S on it. So when I think of per Stirpes, I think, the kids, a plural. All right. Once one gone, it turned into two kids, two additional grandkids. Once one kid was decapitated, per capita. I'm sorry, I don't want to miss you. Once one kid was gone, then it passed down to that kid's branches, per Stirpes, by way of branches. It passed down to that surviving person's branches, because it's plural. Decapitated, once his head is chopped off, he's gone. And if you got any kids, you better hide them. Per Stirpes, once this person is gone, it's going to pass down to the branches. That's how I remember that vivid visualization. And that's how you are going to remember too. And the reason why this is important to know, if you don't automatically select per Stirpes or per capita, make a designation, your policy will always automatically default to per capita. And if that's what you want, that's what you want. But if that wasn't what you wanted, it's not going to be because you didn't know, because you listened to this podcast and you learned what per capita and per Stirpes mean. And you seeing that king head tumbling to the floor, and them got the kids wrapped in a blanket, running them out of the town. They don't get nothing. Per capita, decapitated. You're listening to the Entrepreneurs Podcast, a place to hear real entrepreneurs and business owners bear it all. My name is Randolph Love III, Chartered Financial Consultant. I help business owners and homeowners avoid financial catastrophe and have the opportunity to retire comfortably in 10 to 15 years or less. Go ahead and tell your sisters, tell your friends, tell all your kins to listen to the Entrepreneurs Podcast.